There was a bit of a seesaw on day one, but day two was one-way traffic at Chetak. India lead Bangladesh by 308 runs after day two of the first test. Welcome to ESPN Cricinfo Match Day. We're in the company of Sanjay Manjrekar to look back at the day's proceedings. Sanjay, Bangladesh's spirits had been deflated a fair amount in the second half of day one, but this was the day where they sank further.
Yes, and it was not so much about Bangladesh disappointing us. It's more about a reminder and reaffirmation of India's bowling strength. Generally, the template of when you're bowling in India is to have turning pitches, unleash Ashwin and Jadeja on the opposition. But we saw against England, India doesn't have just one way of winning. If the conditions are different, the opposition is different, they still have so much quality in their bowling attack that they can actually beat the opposition with seal as well. And that was yet another reminder of India's just, overall strength as a test team.
Yes, as you quite rightly point out, not the first time even this year that we've seen India's pacers drive them into an advantageous position in a home test, and led by who else but Jasprit Bumrah. Do you have anything new to say about him?
Good question. Nothing new. But considering that, I'm getting paid to give answers, I must find something to talk about with Bumrah. And the one thing that came through for me was, again, the fact that, we all know about his variations, his, thinking, one of the sharpest thinking fast bowler, the control over all his variations. We saw a certain amount of meanness as well today in the way he bowled to Taskin. But the one thing that came through today was that he's a bowler without a weakness, whatever the opposition, pitch conditions, and that is actually the best way to judge greatness, where you don't see any weakness at all in this guy. And Indian cricket so fortunate to have him in their side.
I'm glad you pointed out that phase with Taskin, because it almost felt like a bit of a violation of the fast bowlers bro code, if I may, where you don't usually go after each other.
And it was a very common practice earlier, especially in the days of no helmets and helmets having just come in, but the fear was still there. Well, that is how they used to soften the tail, in the past, to bowl them a couple of bouncers. But this was actually Bumrah making a statement, because normally you bowl one or two and that should be good enough for somebody like Bumrah, and then you bowl the Yorker. But he bowled more than one or two. So there was some kind of a statement, and I love that about a team. It's winning matches, it's looking superior as well. But there is a certain amount of, you've got to have certain amount of, now this is the aggression, that we talk about. Not so much your body language, but actual aggressive fast bowling, and certain amount of meanness, which I see missing a lot in today's cricket.
So 4 for 50 for Bumrah helps him take his test career bowling average at home to less than 16. Would you believe it? But he also had support from his other pacer, Mohammed. Siraj took 2, as did Akash right at the start of the innings. And Sanjay, this in Akash is an important player from even the longer term view of this big test match calendar ahead for India. What impressions did you make from his performance, only his second test?
Well, it was very impressive in his first test match, his debut test match in Dharamshala. Mukesh Kumar played before him. And when Akash played, you could see that clearly Akash is your better third seaming option. And in Australia, the kind of surfaces that we have, his kind of bowling will be great, because Siraj in many ways is still a swing bowler who releases the ball. Akash is a seam bowler, hits the pitch and gets movement. Like that, getting, two, getting the ball to go to the defense of two batters was great to see. And that's something we saw in Dharamshala as well. He's got that very straight angle, nice, easy action, has enough pace, and a bowler that will, bowl superbly, just the 5 overs, grossly under bowl. But his time will come when India go to Australia.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask. Early days, I know you want to probably see these 5 home tests, but you'd imagine if India had to pick a squad right now for Australia, Akash makes the cut?
Yeah, I think he is already there, penciled down as your third seamer, because he's just played hardly any test matches, and the first time that he played, it looked really good. There was a good chance, if the pitch was different, he would not have maybe played this test. I think India would have gone in with 3 spinners. But yeah, he's already down there as a third seamer, and I know for a fact that the selection committee believes a lot in him.
Right. So India's pacers doing the job for them as good as they were. We should spend some time on the Bangladesh batting. Flying high after the results in Pakistan. A more humbling experience first time out in India, perhaps going to show why this is considered the biggest challenge in Test cricket today.
Yes, and they didn't have the turning pitch, and they didn't have that imminent or the very familiar thread that most foreign teams have of Ashwin Jadeja bowling on a turner. They had a different kind of a challenge, and there's one thing we also must acknowledge is the contribution of the curators in the last few years in the way they have made pitches that will give us the home team the advantage and against Bangladesh. So tactically, it was a brilliant idea to give a pace that supported a pitch that supported pace. But when I looked at Bangladesh playing, I didn't feel that they made too many mistakes. It was just a thing of just high quality bowling led by Bumrah against a team that has not played this kind of bowling too often. Their wins this year, they're ranked number 3, I think, on the ICC Test Championship table. Have been, and they played against Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Ireland. So it's a team that doesn't get to play quality opposition and quality pace as much as India does or some of the other teams. So it was more than a humbling experience. It was just a reality check of how international cricket can be if you're one of the top teams and playing all over the world.
And is this where we celebrated the depth of Indian batting with the efforts of Ashwin and Jadeja on day one? But that's the depth of Indian bowling. When you have 5 bowlers, each of whom possesses a wicket-taking threat. I mean, imagine Ashwin's gone wicketless in this innings. It just becomes a bowling attack that's very difficult to stitch any kind of runs or partnerships against.
Absolutely. And just imagine Kuldeep Yadav is sitting outside. He's your 6th bowler, when you look at this kind of an attack. So you've got also, 2 spinners in Ashwin and Jadeja who are brilliant batters, which, proved to be very useful. And then, 3 quality seamers. And I think India will continue to have a steady supply of quality seam because that culture is now firmly established in India. So, the more I look at this team and more I look at this team in awe, I know Bangladesh is not the number 1 team in the world, but there is just such high quality bowling. There's just no respite for any batter. All 5 bowlers that play, and when Kuldeep Yadav is in, they're all capable of getting 5-wicket hauls. They're not just support bowlers who are expected to get a couple of wickets. So, that has been the biggest growth and biggest strength currently of this Indian team, and that's why they've been winning overseas, beating Australia twice, because there's been a huge improvement in India's overall bowling attack, especially in the seam department.
So the bowlers did the job. They gave India a 227-run lead. The batters went in. And you usually speak of day 3 being a great time to bat at Chepak. You'd have thought there's runs in store potentially for the likes of Rohit Sharma, Virat, Kohli, but both of them having their second low score of this game. 2 different threads here. Let's start with Rohit Sharma, Sanjay. A soft dismissal, if I may, and one that may perhaps annoy the Indian captain himself.
See, this is Rohit Sharma's way of batting. This is how he bats. He's not somebody who will take a big stride forward or big stride back. Needs some time to, get his feet moving, just enough. But on both occasions, in fact, more glaringly in the second innings, you saw those feet firmly planted on the crease. And when you see a batter etch the ball and then take the final sort of finished position, you know that he's been a little late on the ball with regards to commitment of your feet with regards to length. So on that occasion, clearly, he didn't judge the length earlier. Now just imagine Shubman Gill batting, and we saw the same length that Rohit Sharma got out to playing on the crease. Now, Shubman Gill has a big trigger movement, which means that length is already in position well before the ball has come to him, and he actually spanned that same length of force through the covers. So Rohit Sharma has this style of play, and I would put it down to being a little rusty. And when somebody gets out early on a pitch that's a bit like a foreign pitch where you see there's a bounce. I mean, Rohit Sharma was looking down on the pitch, and maybe we have to find out, maybe we'll share with the viewers tomorrow, whether more slip catches against seam have been taken in any test match in India, because this is a very, very unique pitch that we see. A good pitch, but lots of slip catches, and even on day 3.
Right. Turn attention to Virat Kohli. Did get into double digits, but then did not take a review. Has he given his new coach his first reason for a dressing room burst by not taking that review?
Or is that the reason why he didn't take the review? Well, it was sweet of him. You felt sorry for him because, see, this guy wants some runs, especially in India. I mean, away, we saw him in South Africa. He's still, India's number 1 batter or top 2 batters in tough conditions like South Africa and Australia and stuff like that. But in India, he wants some runs. His numbers in India are shrinking, and you could see him put in the effort. And that is the thing to really like about Virat Kohli, the intensity and the will with which he comes into bat, wanting to get runs. And runs for him don't come where he goes flying in Test cricket, getting 30 or just 20 balls or 50 or 40 balls. He has to grind these days because there are just 2 or 3 shots that he plays. There's a flick on the leg side and a cover drive that has proved to be hazardous. So he's caught in that thing where he has to take his time to get runs. And when that happened, it was actually very interesting where Shubman Gill went up to him and I could lip read and said, bad, right? And he said, no, not at all bad, but he was only concerned about whether the ball was hitting the stumps. And somewhere he knew that the ball was hitting the stump. But very interesting where we get an insight where the batter himself doesn't know that he's just got a feather on the bat because there's so much happening that the ball was pitched close to the pad as well. So lots of noises there. And yeah, it was a little sad to see that happen. And unfortunate, but you've got to say, a very unselfish call from Virat Kohli because India had 3 reviews.
Yeah, this shakes the whole notion that I used to hear a lot growing up, that a batter always knows if a ball has hit their bat or not. Runs that Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma let go of in this test, but an opportunity on day 3 for Gill and Pant were at the crease, and potentially someone like KL Rahul. These could be important runs in what you'd expect would be friendlier batting conditions.
Yes, and maybe the reason why India didn't impose the follow-on, because their bowlers hadn't really bowled a lot of overs. They could have come back fresh, and India had the option of bowling the spinners a little more. Akash had hardly bowled, but the reason may have been this. And again, setting a long-term goal to get somebody like Gill to get runs, continuous good form that he had against England, getting 200s. Pant will be fine. Form or no form on the big stage, big game, he'll turn on his heat. And KL Rahul, very important for him too. Get his not his confidence back, but get into the groove and relax a little bit. So I think a good call and a great opportunity for all the 3 batters that we just mentioned.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Sanjay Manjrekar. 17 wickets falling on day 2. Let's see how much more this test match moves on what we call moving day.